Ron! Ron, Ron! Words spoken in fear. Words spoken out of hopelessness. Words of identification. Those are the words spoken by Ashley Altman as he looked in the face of the man who was about to blow his brains out. His young son, John Jr., got the honor of speaking those words to you during this week because he couldn't do it himself. And sadly, all Emily could do was scream. She didn't get a chance to speak her words. But her voice still will live on in this courtroom. Words are powerful things. They hold people accountable. They talk about what's going on in your mind. They talk about a timeline leading up, month after month, to what brings us in this courtroom today. Accountability for the words spoken by Ron Todd beginning in July of 2022. So to help better understand how we made our way into this courtroom today, let's talk about what we know, right? First thing that I have to prove, or the state of South Carolina has to prove, is malice aforethought. Murder is defined as the intentional and lawful killing of another person with malice aforethought, either expressed or implied. What implied means is you can imply through facts, through the use of a deadly weapon perhaps, or through the circumstances surrounding it, that you intended to do what you set out to do, which is kill another human being. That's implied malice. Here, we have expressed malice. I'm going to blow your brains out. That's expressed malice. That's an element required that we need to prove, and we've proved it beyond a reasonable doubt. And how we're going to help explain that to you guys who've sat here with us all week, thank you for your service. Let's go through a timeline of how we get here today. November 7th of 2021, an innocuous text message, probably didn't think anything of it back in 2021, between Ron Todd and Zach Gunner. I have 2 Springfield 9mm, and I live right past Player Street on Gene Ward's. Just an artifact of a conversation and a cell phone. It's pretty relevant today when you're trying to prove ownership of a 9mm Springfield on the side of the road between the detention center and 701. That was back in 2021. Let's talk about July 6th of 2022. Emily texts Ron Todd, I'm going to start by saying I love you, but really, I think maybe we need to take a break. Conversations like that are going on all over the world. Boys and girls, couples breaking up. Hopefully nothing bad comes of it. I don't know that Emily knew that this July 6th, 2022 was set the timeline for what brings us into court today. Ron's response to that, I just want to be with you, honey, not one other person. And by the way, I'm going to go on a road to work. I'm going to go out of town because you don't want to be around me anymore. Not too bad. On July 8th, it starts getting worse. Just know that if I find that any of my friends had a part of you getting with them, it's not going to be good for anybody involved. It's going to be very bad for all involved. That's July 8th of 2022. July 8th? What are you talking about? Don't threaten me. What's Emily Richitel's state of mind on July 8th? She already perceives that words used by Ron Todd as a threat to her life, or a threat to her. Don't threaten me. He ain't a friend of mine, and he has no idea what's going to happen. Same date she talks about the threat, July 8th. July 9th, he tells Kevin Thomas, when Kevin Thomas sees gas in a golf cart, on July 8th, he's expressing malice aforethought. I'll blow the brains out and burn down the house. And if you recall Kevin Thomas's testimony, he said that when he saw gas in the golf cart at his house in person. July 10th, Ron tells her again, it's coming. July 10th. He tells text message in the search warrant extractions to a fellow named J.D. Rogers in a Facebook Messenger text. He says, if someone messing with someone that I love, it's not going to be good. And he tells him he's going to clear the whole house. On July 14th, Ron Todd texts Seth Radcliffe, about to kill one of our family and not give a damn. Someone is effing with what I love and I'm going to kill that. Oh, you're talking about your old lady. Absolutely 100% gonna. I'll kill something else and something else. It's one of my friends and I'm going to get him. I'm killing some people when I get home, no question about that. I love her and it's over. He hadn't done it yet because he's still out of town. He left town to create a little break. When he's coming back into town, he's got malice aforethought. He's had malice aforethought for quite a while. All we need now is action, unfortunately. July 14th, Ron Todd tells him, that's facts. July 20th, 2 o'clock, 2:03 p.m. and the records were admitted. Ron Todd gets a welcome to Land, Air, Sea message in the phone records that you get a chance to look at all this stuff. By the way, you get a chance to look at all of this evidence, take back to the room and read it yourself, read the message yourself, line by line, if you want to. He gets a confirmation email from landairc.net. Thank you for choosing Land, Air, Sea for all your tracking needs at 2:03 p.m. Remember, Kevin Thomas was a little bit concerned about looking at the phone and statements about relating to the use of a tracker to follow Emily's whereabouts. We had a confirmation email about him activating the service on the day that she dies, July 20th of 2022 at 2:03 p.m. At 6 p.m. that same night, Ron Todd leaves the phone, steady staring at his cell phone. I submit to you, he's finding out where she is. Right there. At 9:59 p.m. on July 20th, on this malice aforethought timeline, we get text messages to April Todd. Ron Todd telling him, this left work and straight to Ashley's house. How does he know that? Land, Air, Sea, on a cell phone. And yet, 10 o'clock, 10:09, I love you too, just going to see how long she stays. He puts himself at the crime scene with that conversation or on a tracker watching exactly where she is, one of the two. 11:08 p.m. on July 20th, 2022, golf cart returning, approximately, because we don't know exactly these timestamps, but it's in the ballpark. After saying, let's see how long she stays, at 10 o'clock, at 11:08, he's back heading to his garage. Notice the timestamps, 11:08, 11:10, within 10 minutes, 2 minutes of returning on a golf cart, the defendant's at the gun safe with a large rifle. 2 minutes. That's malice aforethought. That's preparation to act. That's arming yourself for the purpose of committing an illegal act, such as murdering 2 human beings. 2 minutes. You recognize that picture, Investigator Griffith, in that? So that's where the gun safe is, in the back corner of that garage where you see it on the video. Of interest, while we're on a timeline, what's inside that safe? What's inside the garage? Underwood 9mm monolithic bullet style 9mm ammunition. Seven minutes later, Mr. Todd's leaving with a handgun, a long gun, heading to his white truck. 9 minutes after he returns back home. Doesn't go check, do anything else. Straight to weapons, straight to the truck. Leaves at 11:19. If you recall testimony, streets, turns left towards town. And now we know what happens here. Don't know exactly what had happened. We know the 911 call came in at 12:13, and we know Hydro's in the door. A lot of conversation about Hydro. John Jr.'s testimony was Hydro didn't bark when somebody came in the house. Hydro knows Ron Todd. Hydro likes to bark at people he doesn't know. Even Hydro knows Ron Todd killed these two people. Didn't bark. Only started barking after he left. We know what John Jr. testified to. We know what voices he heard. You know, for me, I grew up in the same house almost my entire life. We had a squeaky back garage door that went out into the garage. And I could be downstairs, and when I heard my dad come back from work, I hear that door squeak, and it was my back door. If I hear that sound right now, I'll still get chills going back to my childhood, remembering that door, my house opening. I can't tell you how it sounds like. I can tell you it's squeaky and wooden and creaky, but I can't describe it to you other than to say, that's my back door. That poor young man heard the sound of the voice of Uncle Ron just before he killed his dad. He'll never forget it. He can't tell you how it sounds like. He knows it to the core of his being because he witnessed it and heard his dad yell, "Ron, Ron, Ron." There's no doubt of what this young man went through. He stayed in the room a little bit, hoping that Ron Todd would leave the house. 2 to 3 minutes, doesn't really know. Came out, saw blood, tried to render aid, kicked his dad to see if he was okay or was still alive, and then ran to the neighbor's house. You heard testimony from Ann Hollingsworth. And on the 911 call, you hear the panic and the stress in the voice, identifying Ron Todd as a shooter right then. You heard Jerome DeShears testify relating to forensic efforts on the cell phones. Not particularly overwhelming, other than consistent. The phone is in this area. James' crib in the cone on the array on the tower. James' crib, Ron Todd's house, same spot. The important part is the phone moves and is coming back down into this cone at 12:15. It was here, it was in here at 12:15, and it's back home at 12:20. That's the importance of it. Of course, we already know that, right? Because he's on video. 12:19, Ron Todd is in his truck returning back to his house. Let's talk about crime scenes for a second. These are close-ups of the bullets we've been talking about a lot about. Marker 7, autopsy bullet from the body of Ashley Altman. You tell me if they match. They match, apparently. We also have transfer gunshot primer residue. If you recall the time frame that the forensic expert, that Fletcher testified, from the time of the shooting to the time that he was swabbed is inside that 4-hour window because the stuff is constantly being transferred off. From his hands to the steering wheel he drove from the murder scene. Gunshot residue primer, more on the steering wheel because inanimate objects aren't flecking. They're not washing their hands at the brake. They're not handling weapons, throwing guns in the woods. There's a couple more particles on here. There was one particle left on Ron Todd's hand. Defense might say, there's only one, and I say, hallelujah, we got one. From the time that he pulled the trigger and killed 2 people, we got 1 particle of gunshot residue, 4 shell casings in the house, and gunshot residue on the steering wheel of that truck he drove away from the scene. Let's talk about Mr. Todd's statements on what he did with the gun at the time of his arrest.
Copy. One more.
Special copy of the code, please.
It's on the house.
Yeah, weapons in the house, no. It's not enough. All right, I'm gonna let you take it over.
You getting the cell phone, get my dad?
Yeah, don't worry about it.
We're going somewhere. Gonna hang up on you.
Almost as important as the conversation about the firearm is Ron Todd had his phone in his hand when he was arrested. There was much discussion during this thing about who was possessing your phone and who could be using your Facebook account, who could be texting people, your girlfriend and everybody else. Maybe it wasn't the guy that had the phone in his hand at the time that he was arrested and asked law enforcement to give it to his father. It was collected right there for you to see on screen. That's Ron Todd's phone. That's Ron Todd's conversations. That's what's in Ron Todd's mind, and that's proof of malice aforethought. Let's talk about the gun again. You heard the first part. Not an acknowledgement of what are you talking about, but say, where's the gun? It's not in the house. After he's taken off camera off the body cam to allow to talk to his father, they initiate and discuss, where's the gun? It's not in the house. He tells Melvin Garrett, I threw the gun in the woods somewhere between the detention center and 701. So we know, according to Ron Todd's statement, he has 2 Springfield 9mm. Let's just talk about one. When law enforcement looked in the house, they didn't find this unrelated Springfield 9mm. There are no Springfield 9mm in the house. It's gone somewhere. It's not in the house. He says he threw it in the woods, somewhere between the detention center and Highway 701. Well, we all saw Joshua Tilton testify out there picking up trash. Law enforcement looked for it. Metal detectors, overgrown Georgetown County ditches. When you're driving around from the courthouse, you can take a look now and look at the ditches on the side of the road in Georgetown County and see how successful, hopefully, it might be to find a handgun thrown in the woods on a stretch of rural South Carolina road. They tried. Didn't find any other guns. Didn't find any. Found a bunch of trash. That's what Robert Tucker testified to. But Joshua Tilton testified. He picked it up and thought about keeping it. I got fees. Maybe I make some money off this. Whether somebody else told him he better call or one way or another, that gun got back into possession of law enforcement where forensic testing was done. Gave it a try, right? Springfield XD. Ronnie Todd says he possessed a Springfield XD in 2021, so he's had 2 of them. Bullets consistent, 9mm magazine, 19-round magazine. Let's talk about this gun for a second. But even if the state asserts that even if we didn't find a gun, it doesn't matter. Ron Todd did it, whether we ever found a murder weapon, whether his effort to distance himself with a murder weapon successful or not, there's proof beyond a reasonable doubt that he did it, whether we ever found a gun or not. But let's just talk about it since we talked about it. He said he owned a Springfield 9mm. Didn't find that one in the house. That's gone somewhere. The gun recovered is a Springfield XD 9mm. And it found it right where he said he threw it. Between the detention center and 701. Condition of the gun is absolutely consistent with one being out for up to 2 years. Been a while, out in the woods. All the casings fired were fired from one gun. And the general rifling characteristics, the general stuff, is of a Springfield. He said there were 70-some more, sure. But at least it's saying the guy drove a Ford. That's better than saying I don't know what car he was driving at all. Tool mark similarities between the barrel. You know, the slide, he couldn't do forensic testing on the casings because it was a specimen casing that was too rusted and hammered up to ever be able to get a comparison. The caliber, head stamps, bullet type, all consistent from 3 data points. All right? Crime scene, Ron Todd's garage, and inside the Springfield XD recovered in the ditch. As far as shot counts are concerned, which sometimes in use of force matters, the magazine holds 9 rounds. Found 12 in them. We got 4 casings at the scene. 1 in the chamber, absolutely consistent with shooting 4 shots, having plenty of shots left without reloading, throw the gun out the window on the way home. So 19 rounds, 12. Add 4, there's 6. He's got 3 more rounds able in that. It's absolutely consistent. You look for yourself. Underwood, 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 nickel, silver, 9 millimeters. Bullet, the marker 8, bullet in the wall, bullet from autopsy, bullet from the safe, bullet in the magazine of the gun recovered in a ditch. I mentioned to you what the burden of proof for the state of South Carolina is. For all the laws in the state of South Carolina, this one is one of the most straightforward and simple. The killing of another person with malice aforethought, either expressed or implied. There's malice everywhere. Is there any question? Dr. Phillips testified that both Ashley and Emily died from a gunshot wound, back left head, in Ashley's case, here, exit wound. In Emily's case, a little bit more in the periphery, back left ear, backside. Ashley also had a shot, one that grazed his arm and one that went in near his armpit and severed his spinal cord. There is no question that he died as a result of a gunshot wound, of an effort of Ronnie Todd to blow their brains out. In a couple of cases, Ron Todd's a man of his word. He told you where he threw the gun. He told you he was going to blow the brains out. And he told you he was going to clear the house. He thought he did. He tried as hard as he could. He didn't know that little boy was sitting in the bathroom on Bowmasters. It's a whole different case if that young man wasn't back there witnessing this. I've used a lot of words throughout this closing argument, and you've heard a lot of words being spoken in this trial. Both sides, from the defense, from the prosecution, from the court. And the nice part about this moment in the trial is we're starting to get to the point where we get to hear you speak. You don't have to prepare for months and months and months for this. You've prepared for the words that you're going to speak since Monday of last week. And the even better part for you is you have to use 1,000 words. You have to use one word. And that word is guilty. And that's a fact.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Yes.